Hey, what's up? This your boy Big Man. You know what it is, man. So let's talk about this Ruff Ryders Chronicles. You know I've been following each of these series, man. I went over the No Limit Chronicles, all 5 episodes, and I'm gonna do the same thing with the Ruff Ryders Chronicles, man, because I'm really feeling these things. These are very nicely produced, man. I like what BET is doing with this. And man, this thing is a banger, man. It's very, very, very informative about some of the things we did not know about the Ruff Ryders camp at the time. Now, with that, man, please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button, and let's get to it. All right, so where we left off last time, man, DMX is on his way to jail. So DMX goes to jail and he's doing his time, and he gets a couple extra time, man, a little extra year or something like that, because, you know, he's not adjusting well, and he gets put in solitary. And, you know, I guess that solitary is probably where he started to get a lot of the inspiration for his very first album, man. So things are going kind of crazy. He gets out of jail, and people are more and more interested in taking care of DMX as an artist. They trying to get him a deal, but even DNY, they liked the fact he was in jail because they felt like, man, he could be in a controlled environment in jail and they wouldn't have to worry about something crazy happening to him back in Yonkers. But now he's out on the street. He comes back and he's taking care of his grandma and whatnot, and his grandma passes away. DMX goes clean. No drinking, no drugs or anything for 6 months, and his grandma passes away. So 30 days after that, he goes on a downward spiral, and he goes into some heavy drug use to the point where his wife, or his ex-wife now, she called up DNY and let them know, like, hey, man, if he continues like this, he's not gonna live. And they show a couple of these little cracked out houses, man. They look crazy, man. And to think that DMX was up in there, man, in the trenches, man, just, you know, using drugs and stuff, man. It's a little sad, but it is inspirational too. It goes to show that even though he started off from the bottom of the bottom, that's why I call this one the have-nots to the, you know, to balling, you know, because dude started off from the bottom of the bottom. Those projects that they showed and that stuff that they showed, oh my God, disgusting, bro. And he was living there, man. So DMX is from the bottom of the bottom. Like Irv Gotti said, from the cats who had nothing. I'm talking about nothing. You know what I mean? He had no choice but to rob to eat. You know what I mean? But it's crazy because he's got this talent. So his wife calls DNY, right? DNY, they're like, nah, forget this, man. We got things going on in Baltimore. Man, these dudes was hustling. Let me get on that point before I move on. These dudes was hustling, man. Philly, Baltimore, and New York, man, Yonkers, and dog, these dudes is all over these some hustling dudes, man. I ain't gonna lie. I'm dang near impressed. But DNY, they say, forget that. Anywhere we go, X is coming with us. That way we can watch him. We can make him sure he's staying clean. And that way he could just work on rhymes because we still trying to get him a deal through all this, man. And, you know, this is still like the mid-90s. So at that time, you got to understand, it was some, like, music-wise, you had pretty much the West Coast had taken over. That's during the Death Row days of things, to be honest with you. So DMX is crafting his style, and nobody knowing that in about 3 short years, he's going to take over the industry, which is crazy, man. It's insane to think about at this time right now. Now, DMX is in Baltimore, and he's working with DNY. You know, they doing street stuff, man. They in the streets deep. You know what I'm saying? They doing a lot of stuff they wasn't supposed to. But, man, he's in on that. But they also got him writing rhymes and battling cats throughout Baltimore. And the way they tell it, he out there killing cats. Like, I'm talking about serving heads. You know what I'm saying? Which is dope. I like the fact that he was doing this, man, and sharpening his skills, because the later project of all that was amazing. So X is killing the competition so bad, man, that they like, forget this, man. We gonna spread the word about this dude. And they making word of him being a battle rapper. So X says, forget it, man. Or excuse me, DNY say, forget this. Let's take him to Philly and see if some cats want to get this battle on out in Philly. Because I guess they put money behind him and all that. They trying to place their bets and show folks the MC that he is at the time. But little did they know, in their backyard, they got one of the illest MCs to ever grace the microphone, none other than Sean Carter, a.k.a. Jay-Z, the God MC, Hove. And he's battling cats too. Now, to think about DMX and Hove battling cats, man, at that time, it must have been amazing to be, in the audience of those days, man. That was just, I couldn't imagine it. You think of Jay-Z now, and he's on such a pedestal. You're like, man, there ain't no way in the world that this cat was battling cats in pool halls and stuff like that. But I mean, everybody got to start somewhere. What's really dope is the inclusion of the commentary from Dame Dash. Now, back in those days, Dame Dash and Jay-Z were two peas in a pod. They rode everywhere together. There is no time you could see Jay-Z and not see footage of Dame Dash. This seems like, I think it was right before Jay-Z dropped his first album, you know what I'm saying, Reasonable Doubt. But him and X battled, man, and there was a big controversy because DNY did not want DMX on camera because they were scared people would steal his lyrics because none of his lyrics were copywritten, and he was super duper nice. But Jay-Z, he ain't had that problem because he knows, I'm already out of here. We doing this thing. And they show a little clip of Jay-Z just tearing it up, man, killing it. A lot of people, if you've ever seen backstage, it's that same clip. But I want to know, is there somewhere that a videotape of this whole battle? Because viewing the whole battle would give you an idea of how sharp each one of them was at that time, which I doubt they were probably, I don't doubt that they were probably at their best, man. Now, simultaneously, they're also locking down the Lox contract. They had to go get the Lox out of this contract with some cats called the Mushmen, and they pretty much had them on a standard production deal, but dudes was moving too slow, and the Lox was ready to go. They was just nice, all three of them, and DNY, they saw the potential in the Lox, and they wanted to make sure that, they had a good deal, and they were riding with them. Now, the Lox, they had something in their back pocket, though, that was going to propel them to the heights that they needed to be at, man. Now, they had Mary J. Blige. Mary J. Blige, she was a co-signer for them. She pretty much took them to the record industry and said, yo, these dudes are hot. And at that time, Mary J. Blige could do no wrong. You talking about the No More Drama days. You talking about Mary J. Blige was probably one of the biggest artists in the world. You know what I'm saying? So it was well known that she probably had a lot of pull in the industry. And she brought the industry to the Lox, the Lox to the industry, however it worked. And Puffy saw the potential, was like, okay, yeah, man. At that time, their name was the Warlocks, but they had to change their name up to the Lox, and I'm glad they did, man. The Warlocks is kind of dope. I mean, it makes you think a little deeper into it, a male witch or a magician type deal. But nah, the Lox, it just rings a lot better and sounds a lot more street and harder. So the Lox are signed to a management deal with Ruff Ryder, and they join Bad Boy at its heights when they still got Biggie alive, and they end up being on some of the biggest records in the world. You talking about Honey with Mariah Carey. You talking about Biggie's album. You talking about, man, the Puff, P. Diddy and the family. These dudes were on some amazing projects. I mean, classic projects, bro. Now, the Lox getting signed was an amazing step. They were now in the music industry. DNY had their foot in the industry. They were definitely certified with a big label, major releases, artists that are really doing big things. But their biggest artist, DMX, is still not getting signed. Puffy passed on him because he said he was too gritty and too gangster. It's funny to laugh at that now because in 1998, when DMX, Jay-Z really started taking over the game, Redman, Method Man, everybody who was on backstage, the game turned to that. It became that less shiny suits and dancing around to more gritty. And it always does that, man. Hip-hop always plays that balance for some reason. Kind of like the SoundCloud rappers we had come out in 2016 or whatever. As you notice, every 3-4 years, it's kind of a cycle, man. You notice you're starting to see less colorful hair and all that. You seeing people gravitate more to street guys like Lil Baby and Dub Baby and cats like that. You know what I'm saying? It's always that balance in hip hop. But back to DMX. So even with that being the case, that DMX got passed up by Puffy and a couple other labels, he took it to heart, man. He took it real bad, man. And he ended up going back to the streets, ended up getting jumped real bad and almost losing his life, because of how bad he got beat up and how blew up his jaw got, man. It was a crazy story to hear. Now, this is where you got to give props where they are deserved, man. Irv Gotti, man. Irv Gotti and Murder Inc. get a lot of flack for a lot of things. But people forget that late 90s, early 2000s sound and all of that, man, that was Irv Gotti help build all that. He was kind of the architect of that because he becomes an A&R with Def Jam. Now, Def Jam is the biggest and best hip hop label everybody knows. It's fallen on hard times recently, but man, back in the day, that was the label. And as soon as he gets there, he keeps his promise to DMX and says, "Nope, you're gonna be like my first signee. Like I get on at Def Jam as an A&R, you get signed." Because Irv was already producing for Jay-Z, already producing for Mike Geronimo, already producing for a lot of people, man, doing big stuff over at Def Jam. And so they liked his ear, and they liked the fact that he had these relationships, and he brought DMX on. Now that's keeping it trill with your homeboy. So to sum it all up, Irv Gotti basically saved Def Jam. They're in a tough spot. You know, the West Coast had blown up, and then the East Coast acts that were out there, they weren't your traditional gritty, hard rhyme sayers. You know, it was Puffy and those cats, and Biggie had passed, Tupac had passed. It was just a weird spot for hip hop. So after Biggie and Pac passed, you know, a lot of people wanted a softer, less edgy, less hardcore sound, and that's what Puffy and Mace provided. You know what I'm saying? But Irv, man, he gets over to Def Jam. He's like, "Nah, man, we going back to the streets," and basically help muster in Ruff Ryders, help muster in DMX, help pull Jay-Z and his camp up to the forefront of the office instead of the back office who, you know, they kind of dealt with because they had a 50-50 deal. It was just a lot that Irv did, man. It was pretty amazing. So Lear Cohen goes to the hood with Irv Gotti, and they basically are listening to artists, and DMX comes in with his jaw wired shut and busts a freestyle for them, and, you know, starts kicking lines, and they're like, okay. They give him the stale face. DMX don't know what's up. DNY don't know what's up. Irv don't know what's up. But after they leave, Lear Cohen explodes. It's like, "Yo, who is this dude? You just saved us. Yo, we're about to break him." Yo, next thing you know, they signed DMX to a deal. He's finally signed. It's 1997, man. So dude has been trying to get in the game since the 80s, since 1988. And he finally gets signed in 1997, man. And he felt like, man, he even said in the doc, man, he felt like he was just due, man. It was about time. But, man, pretty much they go and they start working on his debut album, and they drop a freestyle called "Where My Dog's At," and everybody knows that beat. It's infectious, man, and that thing set him ablaze. Now, they end episode 2 by just going over DMX's first CD, you know, and how they shot the video for "Get At Me Dog" and stuff, and how they brought on a new producer. So at this time, they only got Dame Grease, they got PK, and they bring on a new producer who is DNY's nephew, and his name's Swiss Beats. You know what I'm saying? So he had to end through the Family Connect. And in the next episode, that's going to cause a lot of drama, yo. But we've been running kind of long on this episode, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to end it here. Y'all tell me what y'all think, man. Do y'all love this series, man? Because I'm loving this series. I think this is dope. DMX's come-up story is one of the longest in history. You know, it took him a while to get in the game. I mean, dude had to have been like 30 years old or something by the time he got in, or maybe even pushing 30. I don't know, maybe 28, 29 or something like that. But, man, when he did get in, man, he blew up, and it all worked out so far. We'll get to that later videos. Now, with that, this has been your boy, Big Man. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.